Hi guys, this is Reddit Storytell time. Don't miss out. Subscribe for stories online.
My name is Ethan. I never imagined I'd be the kind of guy spilling his heart to strangers on the internet, but here we are. I need to get this story out. It's been eating me alive for years. Maybe writing it down will give me some clarity, or at least help someone else avoid the disaster that became my life. Let me start from the beginning. Emily and I met during our sophomore year of college. She wasn't just beautiful. She had this charisma that could pull anyone into her orbit. She was the life of every party, the one everyone wanted to be around. And somehow she chose me. I was the quiet guy more into books and late night debates than wild cars. But Emily, she was pure energy like a firework that lit up the night sky. We started dating, and within a year, I was convinced she was the one. She made me believe in the kind of love you see in movies, the kind where you think you will conquer the world together after graduation. We got married in a small ceremony. It wasn't extravagant, but it was perfect for us. Or so. I thought the first few years of marriage were everything I dreamed of. We moved into a cozy house in the suburbs, started our careers, and talked endlessly about the future. Emily wanted kids, and so did I. When we found out she was pregnant with Noah, I felt like I'd won the lottery. The day Noah was born was the happiest day of my life, holding him in my arms, seeing his tiny fingers wrap around mine. I knew my purpose. I was a dad, and I loved every second of it. Noah grew up to be a bundle of joy, always laughing, always curious. He had Emily's bright eyes and her knack for making people smile. I couldn't have been prouder. I threw myself into being the best father I could be. Late night feedings, diaper changes, bedtime stories, you name it. I was there. I loved every moment, even the messy, exhausting ones. But as the years went by, something shifted. Emily began to change. At first, it was subtle, longer hours at work, more nights out with friends. She'd come home distracted, her phone always buzzing with messages. She quickly dismissed when I asked her about it. She brushed it off, saying she was just stressed or needed time to herself. I wanted to believe her, so I did. I told myself it was just a phase, that things would get back to normal. Then came the day that shattered everything. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Emily had taken Noah to the park. I was cleaning up around the house when I came across something in her desk drawer. It was a sealed envelope with the words DNA test results printed on the front. My heart stopped. I don't know what made me open it. I guess I thought it might be something medical, maybe a test Emily had done for Noah's health. But the truth was far worse. The results were clear as day. Noah wasn't mine. I can't describe the feeling that hit me in that moment. It was like the ground had been ripped out from under me. My mind raised with questions. Why would Emily do this? Did she know all along who was Noah's father? I wanted to believe it was a mistake, but the evidence was right there in black and white. When Emily and Noah came home later that day, I couldn't bring myself to say anything. I watched her laugh and play with him, like everything was normal, while my entire world was crumbling that night. I couldn't sleep. My thoughts spiraled, and every memory of our life together felt tainted. Had I been living a lie all these years? Did she ever love me? Or was I just a convenient option for days? I kept the secret to myself, trying to figure out what to do. Part of me wanted to confront her to demand answers, but another part of me couldn't bear the thought of tearing our family apart. I loved Noah. He was my son in every way that mattered, or at least he had been. But now I wasn't sure where I stood. Eventually, the weight became too much. Much one evening, I sat Emily down and showed her the test results. Her face went pale, and for a moment, I thought she might deny it. But then she broke down sobbing uncontrollably. She admitted everything. She'd had an affair early in our marriage, a brief fling with a coworker. She swore. She didn't know Noah wasn't mine until recently, and said she hadn't meant to hurt me. Her words felt hollow. How could she not know? How could she keep this from me for so long? I wanted to scream, to cry, to make her feel the pain. She caused me, but instead I sat there in silence, staring at the woman. I thought I knew I didn't recognize her anymore that night. I made a decision. I couldn't stay. I packed a bag, wrote a note saying I needed time to think, and left. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay in that house surrounded by memories that now felt like lies. I left everything behind: my job, my friends, my life, and for years I stayed gone. When I left, I didn't have a plan. I just drove. The miles blurred together. As I tried to process everything, I ended up in a small town, a few states away, where no one knew me. It wasn't glamorous or exciting, but that was the point. I wanted to disappear, to bury the man I used to be and start fresh. I found work as a handyman. It wasn't anything like the corporate job I'd had before, but it kept me busy. I rented a small apartment, the kind of place you wouldn't look at twice, and kept to myself for a while. I convinced myself that this was what I needed: a clean slate, free from lies and betrayal. But the ghosts of my old life never left me. Every time I saw a father with his kid, I thought of Noah. Did he wonder where I'd gone? Did he miss me? I hated myself for leaving him, but I didn't know how to go back. And Emily, every time I thought of her, it was like a knife to the chest. Her face, her laugh, her lies. They haunted me for a while. I drowned my sorrows in work. I'd take any job, no matter how grueling or tedious, just to keep my mind off. Things nights were the hardest. I'd lie awake, replaying every moment of my marriage, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. Was I blind, stupid? Had there been signs I missed? Months turned into years. I built a new routine, a new identity to everyone around me. I was just Ethan, the quiet guy who fixed things and kept to himself. I didn't let anyone get close. I couldn't trust people. Felt like a trap, a way to get hurt all over again. Then one day, everything changed. I came home from work to find a letter slipped under my door. My heart stopped when I saw the handwriting. It was Emily's. For a moment, I thought about tearing it up, throwing it away without reading it. But curiosity, or maybe masochism, got the better of me. I opened the envelope and pulled out a single page. It wasn't long, just a few sentences. She begged me to come back, said she'd been searching for me for years. She wrote about Noah, how he asked about me every day, how he missed his dad. She said she was sorry that she'd do anything to fix things. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let her suffer the way I had. But another part of me, well, I couldn't deny that I still loved Noah, no matter what he was. My son, at least that's what my heart told me, even if the DNA test said otherwise. I crumpled the letter and threw it in the trash. But that night I couldn't sleep. Her words kept replaying in my mind, and for the first time in years, I started to wonder, could I really stay gone forever? 4 days after getting Emily's letter, I was restless. It was like someone had cracked open the part of me I'd worked so hard to bury. No matter how much I tried to push her words out of my head, they stuck clawing at me like an itch I couldn't scratch. I kept replaying her apology, her plea about Noah. Did he really miss me? Did he even understand why I was gone? The thought of him asking for his dad made my chest tighten in a way I hadn't felt in years. But then the anger came roaring back. How dare she drag him into this? She was the one who tore us apart, who lied to me for years. I didn't know her anything still. The questions haunted me. Who was Noah's real father? Why had Emily kept it from me for so long? Was this man still in their lives pretending to be me? The thought made me sick. Eventually, curiosity won. I needed answers, not for Emily's sake, but for my own. Ignoring her letter wasn't enough to make the pain go away. I had to confront it head on. Even if it meant reopening wounds I wasn't sure would ever heal. I called an old friend from back home, someone I trusted, to keep quiet. Josh and I had grown up together, and even though we lost touch after I left, I knew he'd help me when he answered. There was this pause. Like he didn't believe it was really me, Ethan. His voice was cautious, confused. Man, where the hell have you been? I kept it short. Told him I needed to know what was going on with Emily and Noah. At first he hesitated, saying it wasn't his place, but I pressed him. Josh, I need to know, please. After a long silence, he finally gave in. They're doing fine. He said, Emily's well. She's been a mess since you left. She looks like she's holding it together, but anyone who knows her can see through it. And Noah, man, he misses you, talks about you all the time. Hearing that felt like a punch to the gut. I swallowed hard and asked the question I'd been dreading. What about his father, the real one? Is he around Josh's side? Knowing the guy in years from what I've heard. He left town not long after Noah was born. Emily doesn't talk about him ever. That answer didn't give me the closure I was hoping for. If anything, it made things more complicated. I thanked Josh and hung up, feeling more conflicted than ever. The man who ruined my marriage was gone, leaving me to pick up the pieces of a life I wasn't sure I wanted anymore. A few more days passed before I finally caved. I wrote Emily a letter, not long, just enough to let her know I got hers and was willing to meet. I told her it wasn't about us, that I needed to see Noah and get the truth about everything. I wasn't expecting forgiveness or reconciliation. I just needed clarity. When I mailed the letter, I felt this strange mix of dread and relief. It was like stepping onto a battlefield knowing I'd get hurt, but hoping the scars would be worth it. A week later, I got a response. Emily wanted to meet at a neutral place, a park where Noah liked to play. She said he'd been asking for me, nonstop, and that she didn't want to keep him in the dark anymore. Her tone was careful, almost desperate, like she was afraid I'd back out the day of the meeting. I showed up early. My hands were shaking as I sat on a bench watching the families around me, parents pushing swings, kids laughing. It all felt so far away from the turmoil inside me. Then I saw them. Emily was holding Noah's hand as they walked toward me. She looked nervous, but Noah's face lit up when he saw me. Dad. He shouted, running toward me with open arms. Hearing him call me, that broke something inside me. I knelt down, catching him as he threw his little arms around my neck. For a moment, I forgot everything, the betrayal, the anger, the doubts in that instant. He was just my son, and I was his dad. Emily stood a few feet away, watching us with tears in her eyes. When I finally let go of Noah, she took a step closer. Thank you for coming, she said softly. I nodded, keeping my eyes on Noah. We need to talk, I said, but not here. Emily agreed, and we decided to go somewhere private, while Noah played nearby, under the watchful eye of a park employee sitting across from her. I felt the weight of years of unanswered questions pressing down on me. Why, I asked, my voice low and steady. Why didn't you tell me the truth? Emily looked down, twisting her hands in her lap. I was scared, she admitted. I didn't know how to tell you. And then as time went on, it just got harder. I didn't want to lose you. Her words felt like excuses. But I let her continue. She told me about the affair, about how she convinced herself it was a mistake she could bury. When I found out I was pregnant, I wanted to believe he was yours. She said I didn't do the test until after Noah was born, and by then, I couldn't bear the thought of breaking your heart. I clenched my fists, anger bubbling under the surface. So you let me live a lie instead. You let me believe he was mine. Let me fall in love with him, knowing the truth. The whole time, tears streamed down her face as she nodded. I know I messed up. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But Noah, he loves you, Ethan. You're his dad in every way that matters. Her words cut deep, but I couldn't deny the truth in them. Noah was my son, even if he wasn't biologically mine. The bond we had was real, no matter how much Emily's lies had tried to poison it. But forgiveness, that was a different story. And as I sat there staring at the woman I used to love, I realized this was only the beginning of the confrontation I'd been avoiding for so long. Emily and I sat in that park for what felt like hours. Every time I thought I'd asked all my questions, another one came to mind. I needed to understand why she made the choices she did, even though I knew her answers wouldn't undo the damage. Did he ever want to be part of Noah's life? I finally asked. My voice was cold, detached. Emily shook her head. No, when I told him I was pregnant, he said he wasn't interested. He moved away soon after. I never even told him about the DNA test. Her words stung this man. This stranger had stolen something from me without a second thought and disappeared. And Emily had led him. What about Noah? I pressed what happens when he's older and starts asking questions. Do you expect me to lie to him too? Emily hesitated, wiping her tear-streaked face. I don't know. I thought if we could just move past this, we could raise him together, and maybe he'd never have to know. Her answer infuriated me. You thought you could bury this forever. You don't think he deserves the truth. Emily Flynn flinched at the sharpness of my tone. But I didn't care. I couldn't believe how naive or selfish she'd been. I stood pacing back and forth. The weight of everything was crushing me. I wanted to scream at her to make her feel the betrayal I'd carried for years. But every time I looked at Noah, playing nearby, my anger softened just enough to stop me. He didn't deserve to suffer because of our mistakes. I can't forgive you, I said. Finally, my voice firm. Not yet, maybe not ever, but I'll be there for Noah. He's the only reason I'm even having this conversation. Emily nodded, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I understand, she whispered. I don't expect anything from you, Ethan, but thank you for being here for him. That means more than you know? I didn't answer. My mind was too tangled with conflicting emotions, love for Noah, anger at Emily, and a deep sadness for the life we'd lost when I left the park that day. I felt like I'd taken the first step onto a long and uncertain path. I didn't know where it would lead, or if I'd ever find peace, but one thing was clear: the truth was out, and there was no going back after that day in the park. I couldn't stop thinking about Noah. Seeing him again had stirred up feelings. I'd buried deep love, guilt, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. He was my son, whether or not we shared blood that much. I knew him. Emily reached out a few times in the weeks that followed, mostly to send me updates about Noah. She texted me pictures of him playing soccer or tell me about something funny. He said, I told myself I didn't need to respond, that I was doing enough just by letting her keep me informed, but deep down, I knew I was avoiding the real issue. I missed him eventually. Emily asked if I'd be willing to see Noah again. She said he'd been asking about me nonstop, wondering when his dad was coming back. The thought of him waiting for me, still seeing me as his father, made my chest ache. I couldn't let him down. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop near her house. Emily promised to keep her distance, giving us space to reconnect. When I arrived, Noah was already there, sitting at a table with his little legs swinging under the chair. His face lit up when he saw me, and he ran over, throwing his arms around my waist. Dad. He shouted, his voice filled with pure joy. Hearing him call me that again nearly broke me. I knelt down to his level, holding him close. Hey, buddy, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I missed you. We spent the next hour talking about everything and nothing he told me about school, his soccer team, and a new video game he was obsessed with. I listened, hanging on to every word like it was the most important thing in the world for a little, while it felt like nothing had changed. But then he asked the question I've been dreading. Why did you go away? Did I do something wrong? The innocence in his voice was like a dagger to my heart. I swallowed hard, trying to find the right words. No, Noah, you didn't do anything wrong. I just needed some time to figure things out, but I'm here now. I'll always be here for you. He seemed satisfied with that answer, but I knew it was only a matter of time before he started asking more questions. Questions. I wasn't ready to answer. When the visit ended, I hugged him tightly, promising we'd see each other again. Soon as I watched him leave with Emily, I felt a flicker of hope for the first time in years. Maybe, just maybe, I could be the father he deserved. But the road ahead wasn't going to be easy. I still had to figure out how to navigate my relationship with Emily, if there even was one to salvage. And more than anything, I had to decide what kind of role I wanted to play in Noah's life. One thing was certain: I couldn't disappear again, not from him. In the weeks that followed, I began seeing Noah regularly. Emily kept her word and stayed out of the way, letting me spend time with him without interference. We'd meet at the park, the coffee shop, or his soccer games. Every visit reminded me of the bond. We shared a bond that no DNA test could ever erase. Noah was my son in every way that mattered, and I was determined to be there for him. But as much as I cherished these moments, the shadow of Emily's betrayal loomed over everything. I couldn't look at her without feeling a mix of anger and sadness. She'd stolen years of my life. Years I could have spent making honest choices, building a future based on truth. And yet I couldn't deny that she was still a part of Noah's life. A part one couldn't ignore. One day after dropping Noah off at her house, Emily asked if we could talk. I hesitated, every instinct telling me to walk away, but something in her expression stopped me. She looked tired, like she'd been carrying a weight too heavy to bear. And we sat at the kitchen table, the same one where we'd once shared countless dinners as a family. The memories felt like ghosts lingering in the corners of the room. Thank you for spending time with Noah, she began, her voice hesitant. It means everything to him. And to me, I nodded, keeping my gaze fixed on the table. I'm not doing it for you, Emily. I'm doing it for him. She flinched, but didn't argue. Instead, she took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she clasped them together. I know, I don't deserve your forgiveness, Ethan, but I want you to know that I'm sorry for everything. I was selfish and scared, and I let my mistakes ruin the best thing I ever had. Her words hung in the air, heavy with regret. For a moment, I considered letting my anger explode, laying be the hurt and betrayal that had consumed me for so long. But as I looked at her, I realized something. She wasn't the same confident, carefree woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. She was broken, just like me. I don't know if I can ever forgive you, I said finally, my voice steady but firm. But you did it. Destroyed me, Emily. You took away my choice, my right to know the truth, and you let me love a child under false pretenses. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't interrupt. She simply nodded, her shoulders pumping under the weight of my words. But I continued, Noah is my son. He always will be. And for his sake, I'll do whatever it takes to make this work. That doesn't mean we're okay. It just means I'm not walking away from him. Emily wiped her tears and gave a small, shaky smile. That's more than I deserve. Thank you, Ethan. The conversation ended there, but it left me with a strange sense of closure. I didn't forgive her, and I wasn't sure I ever would, but at least now the lines were clear, my focus was on Noah, and nothing else mattered. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself settling into a new routine. I'd spend time with Noah every weekend, taking him to the park or helping him with his homework. He was thriving, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was making a difference in his life. But as much as I tried to move forward, the past kept pulling me back. One evening while helping Noah build a model car, he asked a question that caught me off guard. Dad, why don't you live with us anymore? I froze, the small pieces of the model slipping from my hands. I'd known this question would come eventually, but I wasn't prepared for it. I needed some space, buddy. I said carefully, "You're a mom and I have some things we need to figure out." He frowned, his young mind trying to process the answer. "But you still love me, right?" "Of course I do," I said quickly, pulling him into a hug. "I love you more than anything, Noah. That will never change." He seemed satisfied with that, but his question lingered in my mind long after he'd gone to bed. It was a reminder that the truth couldn't stay buried forever. One day he'd need to know the whole story, but how could I explain something so complicated, so painful, without breaking his heart that night? I lay awake, grappling with the weight of it all. I'd built a fragile new normal L, but it felt like a house of cards ready to collapse at any moment. The truth was a ticking time bomb, and I had no idea how to defuse it without hurting the one person who mattered most. As I stared at the ceiling, a thought occurred to me. Something I'd been avoiding since the day I opened that DNA test. I needed to confront the man who had started all of this, Noah's biological father. If he was still out there, he needed to know the damage he caused. And maybe I could find some closure for myself. The decision to confront Noah's biological father wasn't easy. For years, I had avoided thinking about him, burying the anger and resentment deep inside, but now I realized that ignoring his existence wasn't helping anyone if I wanted closure. And if I wanted to protect Noah's future, I needed answers. Tracking him down wasn't as difficult as I thought it might be. His name, Andrew, was on the DNA test results. I found a quick search online led me to an old LinkedIn profile. It seemed like he'd moved to another state and started a new career in finance. A part of me wanted to just let it go, to move on, without reopening old wounds. But the other part, the part fueled by years of pain and unanswered questions, wouldn't let me. I reached out to him anonymously at first, using a fake email account. I told him there was something urgent about his past that needed addressing. To my surprise, he responded quickly, agreeing to meet at a coffee shop in his city. He didn't seem suspicious, and that only made me angrier. How could he live his life so easily without even a shadow of guilt the day of the meeting? I drove 3 hours to his town, my thoughts racing the entire time. When I walked into the coffee shop, I spotted him immediately. He looked exactly like the photos I'd found online. Tall, clean-cut, with an air of confidence that made my blood boil. He looked up as I approached his table, his expression neutral. "Are you the one who emailed me?" he asked. "Yes," I said, sitting down across from him. "We need to talk about something from your past, about Emily." His face froze for a moment, but he quickly recovered. Leaning back in his chair, "Emily," he repeated, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "I haven't heard that name in a long time. What does she have to do with this?" I clenched my fists under the table, trying to keep my emotions in check. "She's my wife, or at least she was. And Noah, he's your son." That wiped the smirk off his face. His eyes widened slightly, and he leaned forward, lowering his voice. "What are you talking about? I haven't seen Emily in years. Are you saying?" "You know exactly what I'm saying." I interrupted, my voice cold. "She got pregnant while she was married to me. She hid the truth for years, and when I finally found out, my life fell apart. Meanwhile, you just walked away." Andrew's expression shifted to something between guilt and irritation. "Look, I didn't know she was married at the time. She told me it was a fling, nothing serious, when she said she was pregnant. I told her I wasn't ready for that kind of responsibility. I didn't force her to keep the kid or lie to you. That was her choice." His words stung, but they also raised more questions. "So you knew she was pregnant. You knew there was a chance. The baby was yours, and you just left." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I was young and stupid. Okay, I wasn't ready to be a dad. And honestly, I didn't think she'd even have the baby. She didn't seem like the maternal type." The casual way he dismissed everything made my blood boil. "Well, she did have the baby, and for years I raised him as my own. He thinks I'm his dad, and now I'm stuck trying to figure out how to tell him the truth without ruining his life." Andrew looked genuinely uncomfortable, now shifting in his seat. "Look, I'm sorry for what you've been through, but I don't know what you expect from me. I've moved on. I'm married now, with a family of my own. I can't just drop everything and step into this kid's life." "Don't worry," I said sharply. "I'm not asking you to. I just wanted you to know what your actions did to me, to Emily, and to Noah. You might think you've moved on, but the you left behind is still ruining lives." For a moment, he didn't say anything. Then he nodded slowly. "You're right. I screwed up. I should have handled things differently back then, but I can't change the past. All I can do is say, I'm sorry." His apology felt hollow, but I didn't press further. I'd gotten what I came for, the truth, as painful as it was, standing up. I looked down at him one last time. "You might not care about Noah, but he's a better kid than you'll ever deserve. Just remember that." With that, I walked out of the coffee, shot my chest tight with a mix of anger and relief. I didn't know if confronting Andrew had made anything better, but at least I'd finally faced the ghost that had haunted me for so long. Driving back, I thought about Noah and the kind of father I wanted to be for him. I couldn't change the past any more than Andrew could, but unlike him, I wouldn't walk away from my responsibilities. Noah deserved better, and I was determined to give it to him driving back from my confrontation with Andrew. My mind raced with everything I'd learned. While it hadn't provided the closure I'd hoped for, it had solidified one thing. Noah deserved stability, love, and honesty. Andrew was out of the picture, and I had no intention of letting his absence or his indifference affect the life Noah and I could build together. The first step was addressing the elephant in the room. The truth, I couldn't keep avoiding it. Noah was too smart, too curious, and the questions were only going to get harder. But how could I explain it to him without shattering his world? I decided to talk to Emily first, as much as I resented her. This was something we needed to handle together the next weekend after my usual visit with Noah. I asked Emily to meet me outside. We stood in her driveway, the late afternoon sun, casting long shadows. She looked nervous, clutching her arms, like she was bracing for bad news. We need to tell him, I said, bluntly. Not the full story, not yet. But he deserves to know some of the truth that we're not together. Because of mistakes. We both made Emily's eyes widen. Ethan. He's just a kid. He's not ready for something like this. I shook my head. He's already asking questions. He thinks he did something wrong. Emily, do you really want him growing up with that guilt? Her expression crumpled, and she looked away. No, of course not. But what do we even say? How do we explain this without confusing him? I had been turning that question over in my mind all week, and while I didn't have all the answers, I knew honesty was the only way forward. We keep it simple. We tell him that sometimes adults make mistakes, and those mistakes can hurt people. But none of it is his fault, and it doesn't change how much we both love him. Emily nodded reluctantly. Okay, let's do it, but only if we're both there. He needs to see that we're united on this. The following evening, we sat Noah down in the living room. He looked between us, his little face filled with concern. Am I in trouble? He asked, his voice small. No, buddy, I said, kneeling down to his level. You're not in trouble. We just need to talk about something important. Emily took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she reached for his Noah. You know your dad and I aren't together anymore, and that's because we made some mistakes, grown-up mistakes. His brow furrowed, confusion flickering in his eyes. What kind of mistakes? I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. It's hard to explain, but the important thing is that none of it is your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Your mom and I both love you so much, and that will never change. Noah looked down, his little hands gripping Emily's tightly. Is that why you don't live with us anymore, Dad? I nodded, my throat tightening. Yeah, buddy, that's part of it. But no matter what, I'll always be here for you. You'll always be my son. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he threw his arms around me, clutching me tightly. I love you, Dad. I love you too. Noah? I whispered, holding him close. Emily joined the embrace, tears streaming down her face in that moment. It felt like we were finally starting to heal, not as a couple, but as parents united in our love for our son. Over the next few months, things began to settle. Emily and I found a rhythm that worked, balancing co-parenting with our own lives. She went to therapy, trying to work through the guilt and regret that had haunted her since I left. I focused on rebuilding my relationship with Noah, making up for lost time. One evening, as I was tucking Noah into bed, he looked up at me with those bright, curious eyes. Dad, are you happy? Now, the question caught me off guard. I thought about everything we'd been through, the pain, the betrayal, the uncertainty, and realized that, for the first time in years, I was starting to feel like myself again. I think I'm getting there, I said, smiling softly. Having you in my life makes me happy. He grinned, his little face lighting up with joy. Me too. As I left his room that night, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in a long time. The scars of the past would always be there, but they didn't have to define me or Noah. We had a future to build one day at a time, and that was enough.